Hey everybody, it's Tara Hutton, and I'm coming to you from, my home office, and my sweet hubby has set me up with a little mic and a little box to record into. Hopefully this is somehow gonna get out to you guys. I don't know how to do that part, but man, I had some things to share and I didn't want to wait. I didn't want to get in front of camera. I didn't want to wait to go to the studio. I wanted to share them tonight. And so here we go. I wanted to, the first thing I want to share is that this week marks 3 months. This is 3 months of the Mama's Well podcast. And oh man, I'm blown away. I'm blown away I want to say thank you. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Like I had no idea that people were going to listen. And that people were going to be so encouraged, and that this would be as helpful and encouraging as it has been to others. And I knew it was going to be helpful and encouraging to me, but I'm so grateful to hear that it's helpful and encouraging to you. So, thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing it. Thank you for giving me your feedback. Thank you for leaving reviews on the podcast platforms and on YouTube and messages on my website. Thank you for texting me and Facebook messaging me and calling me. Thank you. Thank you for the encouragement, because this took courage, and so your feedback and it's been incredible for me. So thank you. I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you for that. I also want to say that I would love to connect with you more personally. I would love to connect with you weekly by email. Each week I send out a blog, and basically I sit down and I watch the podcast that we've recorded, and then I write my thoughts. And sometimes it kind of goes a different direction, but it's always on the same topic. And so every Tuesday morning I send out a hello and a written blog. And so I would love to have you a part of that. I would, if you would like to be a part of that, if you'd like to receive those weekly blogs, those weekly emails, go to mamaswell.com and sign up, subscribe. And you will be sent nothing more than an email every Tuesday morning with the blog. It'll also have a link to that week's podcast, the audio and the video. I guess you all know that we record this. This is a video podcast as well as audio podcast. So you can view the podcast on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel, the Mama's Well YouTube channel, and so you can view or listen. But the links to that go out in the weekly email, as well as the Wisdom from the Well card. And if you haven't been downloading those, that's easy to do. There'll be a link in each email. Click on it and you just print it out. And this morning I had a great idea. I was in the bathroom and I thought to myself, this is a great place. I do have a card in there. I have a card, an affirmation, that's something that I need to hear every day. So I put it in the bathroom, and I thought to myself, I should just put all of my affirmations in here. I have a blank wall. I'm sitting here staring at a blank wall. I could put all of those Wisdom from the Well cards along with a ton of other cards I have posted. This is a great place because, come on, you go to the bathroom several times a day. It's probably one of the few places that you are not interrupted. I know that's not all the time, but that's a great place. So you know what? Take advantage of it. If you do this, I have to see a picture. So please either post a picture or send me, text it, whatever. I want to see a picture if you decide to make your bathroom wall your affirmation wall and your Wisdom from the Well cards. If you hang them there, please send me a picture. I would love to see it. Okay, that's the first thing I want to tell you. And the second thing I want to share, I want to be vulnerable here. It's been a rough week for me. This is a somber day, actually. If you think I sound a little bit different than normal, we spent the day at a funeral for my husband's cousin's husband, and just reminded of how temporary our life is, and so that was rough. But the whole week has been rough. It was a rough parenting week. It was full of tears. Raising kids who experienced the trauma that our kids have is hard on the heart. And I was reminded today, and I was listening to another podcast, and she said, we are responding to trauma that we didn't create. And she's right. And it's painful. It is so painful. I've experienced a lot of pain this week, and I know that in this community, I'm not alone. And so this week's episode, it wasn't recorded this week, but it was so timely. It just happened to be slated to be released, and it was really timely for me. It was a great reminder of the pain that our children carry. And when we are parenting children that carry that kind of pain, it oozes over, and we are going to feel it. And so this week, I promise you will be blessed. I certainly was. Anna Valdez returns. If you remember, Anna joined me for our episode where we talked about Christmas. And honestly, it was a Christmas episode. It was for Christmas week. But it's really a great episode. Man, I don't know the number. It was so it was Christmas week. You just have to go back and look, Christmas week. It's a great episode for just taking our kids to any unfamiliar places, really. We talked about going into unfamiliar places, and that's a great episode, just reminding us of they need predictability, and they don't know all the people that we know that we're introducing them to, and the traditions that we have. And it's a great episode. Go back and listen. But let me just remind you again who Anna is. She is a trust-based relational intervention educator. It's a TBRI educator. She is a Trauma Free World affiliate trainer. And Anna is not only well educated, but she is an experienced coach and teacher, but she has served as a foster mother to 17 preteen and teenage girls in a group home for 5 years. She knows firsthand the pain surrounding trauma for both the child and the caregiver, because this is a painful experience for all of us. And so, man, today Anna is going to bring some clarity on attachment. Man, what is attachment? How is it formed? What are the attachment styles? And what does that all really mean in the day-to-day, boots on the ground life that we're living, raising these children who have really insecure attachments? She helps us understand the value in us understanding our own attachment style so that we might be better equipped to handle that of our child. Unfortunately, for me, and probably statistically speaking, most of you, I have some wounds in the attachment department, and that has made parenting very difficult for me at times. But there's good news, and she's going to share it. The good news is that we can all earn what's called a secure attachment. And so can our children. And the truth is that our children, and she's going to talk about this, but our children take on the same attachment style that we have. So that's why it's so important that we understand our own attachment style. We got to know what we got, and we got to know where we need to go. And we can do that together. So let's hop over and see what Anna has to say. Enjoy. Welcome to the Mom is Well podcast. We are digging deep into the gifts and the gaps of foster and adoptive parenting. I'm Tara Hutton, and I'm glad you're here. Mama's Well. Yes, she is. Hey, hello. Welcome. And you know what? I am remembering when we first started foster care, I'm remembering there was a word that got thrown out a lot. And I didn't really have any context for this word. And the word is attachment. And 5, almost 6 years in, I have begun to see what in the world everyone was talking about. Attachment is way more than a buzzword. It is really there's so much to it, and I can see how it affects not just my parenting relationships, but my relationship with my husband, my relationship with my friends. And so I want to talk about that word. I want to put some context around it. I want to clarify it for parents, because I think, especially in the foster and adoption world, like it's big. It's important that we understand our attachment styles and our own attachment styles. And so I asked someone to join me today, and the reason that I thought of this person is because I was in a weekend conference that she was putting on, where I actually had the treat to, my husband paid for a hotel room. It was in the same town, but I got to go away for the weekend. And I was very intentional that weekend. I told myself when I got back to my room, I wasn't going to turn on my TV. I wasn't going to do anything. I was just going to just soak in everything I could learn. And she talked about attachment that weekend. And it was my first, I actually had a dream, and I won't get into that, but I had a dream that was concerning my own attachment. It was concerning my grandmother and my mother, and that word came alive to me. And so I've asked her to join me today. Her name is Valdez, and she is a trauma trainer. And we had her here on the show Christmas week. And so, but I still want you to tell them a little bit about who you are in case someone missed that show. If you did miss that show, it's timeless. Save it, because next Christmas, really any family gathering, Easter's coming, right? You need to watch that show. It's great stuff you gave us. So Anna, you are a TBRI practitioner. And tell me some more about yourself. Tell my audience about what you do and what you've done, and give a brief introduction in case they missed it the first time.
Sure. I'm so happy to be here with you again.
Thank you.
It was really fun last time, so I'm glad we're doing this again. I'm a TBRI practitioner. I'm a Trauma Free World affiliate trainer. Really at my core, I'm a teacher. I'm the director of programs for Fostering Hope, and a big part of my job is to train foster and adoptive parents to understand their children, and to really create a healing home for them. So I'm really passionate about the caregiver, whoever that may be, foster, adoptive parent, but we train bio parents too. I'm really passionate about them and them being able to understand their child and themselves. And as we'll talk about today, we have a large part to play, especially in parenting, right? So I've been doing this work for about 8 to 9 years now. It started off in Mexico. After grad school, I decided to work with an organization that was there, and I was a caregiver in a children's home, and I took care of 17 teenage girls during my 5 years there. So that's where a lot of my questioning started, as far as what are these behaviors that I'm seeing? Why are these kids different? I was a teacher before, so I had worked with kids for a while already, but this was just really different. I remember my first day there, meeting all the girls. I was going to have 10 girls under my care the first day. I was going to live with them, raise them. And one of the girls asked me, do you like egg? And I was like, I'm plant-based. I don't really like egg that much. I don't like to, and they all immediately started laughing right at me. And I was like, okay, I don't get it, right? What I didn't know is that every night at the children's home, we had egg for dinner. Wow. Egg in some way, egg tacos, eggs and beans. I didn't even know there's so many ways to do egg. But it's so ironic because that was not the only thing I didn't know. I didn't know about their behaviors. I didn't know about, how trauma had impacted their life, how abandonment had impacted their life. And that was really, where my learning started with this.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I remember you even told that story at the training that I was at. And just the fact that you were such a young woman stepping into a role as a mom. For how many kids were in the home where you were at?
There is over 70 in the home, but I took care of the older girls, what they called like the older girls. So at any time I had 2 to 10 girls in my care at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah. And you were there for 5 years. I remember the story. And you had over 17 girls you were mama too.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's incredible. And I know, so attachment is definitely something that at that age, because you said, how old were they?
They were from 12 to 17 years old.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you were new to them at 12 to 17 years. Mm-hmm. So a lot of years had passed before you became their mom.
Yeah.
So tell us about, that's a great place to start, because the kids that are in our care, some are coming as newborns, which, by the way, have already had a broken attachment, even as a newborn. And some are coming 17, 18 years old. That's amazing when somebody comes into your, you get to adopt someone that's about to age out.
Right.
That's so beautiful.
And additionally, they have had multiple caregivers,
Right.
all with their own attachment. And every time they're separated from someone that they've attached to, even if it's, if you think, well, that wasn't a very positive person or a very good person that they had a relationship with, as a caregiver, they still had an attachment to them. Mm-hmm. So it's still every single time broken, right? And we think about kids in care that move from one placement to another placement to another placement. Yeah. Before we get too deep into that, let's just talk, what is attachment? John Bowlby started all this work, right? And he really came up with attachment and attachment theory. Okay. And really attachment is that bond that a caregiver and a child share. It's based on the history of that caregiver and that child. And the most important age for attachment is the first year of life. So a lot of us don't know what happened the first year of life. I certainly didn't for all the girls that I had. How their caregiver at that time, whether it was mom or another foster parent, whoever it was, how did they respond to their needs? And that's super important. Mm-hmm. I love talking about attachment because when we welcome kids into our home, it's so easy. It was definitely easy for me to say there's something wrong with them and they are doing this and their behavior, right? Yeah. And attachment is really more about the caregiver. How did the caregiver respond to the needs of the child, right? Did they do it in a consistent, warm way? So let's think about the first year of life, right? Very beginning, first year of life, think about a baby, right? A baby has needs. What does a baby do every time they need something?
Cry.
They cry, right? And it's the most annoying sound. I have a friend that described it. She's also a trainer. She's like, it's the most annoying sound, right? I don't think anybody here turns on baby cries at night to go to sleep. There's no way that can calm you down.
Right.
Because what a baby's cry is supposed to do to the caregiver is supposed to elicit a response. Right. You're supposed to hear a baby's cry and, oh, the baby needs something. I need to go to them. Right. Inside the baby, when they're crying, there is stress hormones being released. The brain is telling the baby, if you don't get someone's attention, you're in danger. Someone needs to come feed you, change you, cuddle you, give you a kiss, warm you up, whatever it is. So the caregiver responds to these cries and meets the need of the child, right? And it becomes kind of like a dance, right? Where you start to notice, oh, that cry means they're hungry. Did you notice any of that with your kids?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
That cry means they're lonely, or that cry means they're cold. I need to warm them up. Yeah. And when the caregiver meets the need of the baby, of the infant, the brain relaxes. Different hormones are released, right, that help the brain and the baby relax. How many times do you think this happened since you had babies in your home?
I'm five in, so yeah.
Yeah, the first year of life, it happens thousands and thousands of times.
Right.
And every time the caregiver, the caregiver's brain is giving a message to the baby's brain when they respond to their need, you are valued, you are safe, right? You can trust me to meet your needs, right? And that is the foundation of self-esteem. That is the foundation of really how in the future that child will do relationships.
Wow.
Right? So when a caregiver responds to the baby in a warm, consistent way, not perfect, right? Because we're not going to be perfect, but consistently knows how to soothe the child,
Right.
how to meet the needs of the child develops what we call secure attachment. And these babies with secure attachment, research shows us they're just better off in life. They know how to be independent. They're more likely to be leaders among their peer group. They're more likely to be successful in their relationships because attachment sets that pattern. Our children's histories with their previous caregivers, right, especially when they're older, those previous caregivers have set the pattern for how they do relationships now.
Yeah.
Which is really important.
Yeah. And I hope you're going to tell us the good news.
Yes.
Which is that we can change or earn a new attachment or something. And one thing I want to ask you, or just mention that's triggered in my brain is, I believe it was Dan Siegel telling a story in one of his books where he was doing a residency, and he was on a unit where the babies were extremely, extremely sick. And he was having to take blood, I believe, something involving needles. I believe he was taking blood, and he had to desensitize himself basically to the screaming of these babies. And that showed up for him when he became a parent for the first time. I hope it's Dan Siegel. I'm almost positive it's him telling the story, but that when his child would cry, he was having this, I need to withdraw kind of feeling, and so
that's where I'm going next, right?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I mean, I just thought of that story, and I thought, this is Dan Siegel. Like,
yeah,
I'm pretty sure. I hope it's him. But telling this story and how so let's talk. I mean, I don't want to interrupt you, but
I think you bring up a good point, because what we've talked about so far is that secure ideal attachment, right? A little over 50% of Americans have that good, secure, the kind of attachment we want, right? But there's 3 other styles, right? So the next style, and we're going to focus on the caregiver here, is a caregiver who was not very good at the emotional part of caregiving for that child. Maybe they were more involved with physical things than relationship, right? They're really good. This caregiver is probably really good at providing for the physical needs of the child. The child maybe was never hungry, had a crib, had shelter. But when it came to the emotional part, they didn't know how to soothe the child emotionally, right? So this creates an avoidant baby, right? A baby that doesn't really know what to do with the emotions, right? That can have their needs met physically, right? And this will show up later on in life, because again, this is a pattern.
Right.
So I want you to think about this caregiver that might have been avoidant, right? Like, what would cause a caregiver to do that? And this is where we can grow our compassion for our child's biological family, right?
Yeah. Well, Dan Siegel, he was avoidant. He wasn't even aware because he had been in those traumatic situations where those babies are screaming, but he knew he had a job to do. He had to take blood.
There you go.
And so when it showed up for him, when his baby started to cry and scream, and he was avoidant.
Yeah. So it depends on the tools we have, right?
Yeah.
Does this parent even have the tools? Because they got their attachment style from their parents.
Yeah.
So how were their parents?
Tell us
with
about that, because
right?
that was profound. What you said in the training, which is what I think elicited the dream that night.
Yeah.
About our grandparents and our parents and our attachment style.
Yeah. So, research shows that about 70% of people or so have their mother's attachment style, because the mother's usually the primary caregiver, right? And about 60% of people have their grandmother's attachment style, because grandma was caregiving mom caregived the child, right? It gets passed down. And folks, this is how we do relationships, right? Yeah. So that's the avoidant, right? Then we have the anxious baby. this baby had a caregiver that was very inconsistent with their caregiving. They never knew what to expect. Again, let's think about what kind of caregiver this would be. Maybe when work was really bad and stressful, they could not be there emotionally or physically for their child.
Yeah.
Maybe when they were struggling with mental illness, depression, or drug addiction, which is the case for many of our kids, right? That had parents that had drug addiction problems. They were not good parents, but when they were sober and they were good, they were able to give some of that nurturing care. So it's a very inconsistent parent, and makes the baby anxious, doesn't know what to expect from that caregiver. And then the last one, just to mention the 4, is disorganized. Most of our kids in care have a disorganized attachment style.
Okay.
And this one is really hard to talk about, because this baby in that first year of life had a caregiver that was the terrorizer, which means they were being harmful to their child, right? Abuse comes into play here. Or they had a caregiver that was being terrorized by someone else. And this was just a very scared caregiver all the time.
Yeah.
Couldn't meet the needs of the child. And this,
domestic violence, which is a lot of what we see in kids in care.
Right, exactly. And this type of baby that has this disorganized, really has suffered trauma through their caregiver, right? They will just not even have a pattern for how to do relationships. We'll see a lot of mental illness, in this child. So the first 3 is like, they at least have a pattern, right? They at least have a pattern onto how to do relationships. Okay. This disorganized, this unsecure attachment does not even have a pattern. They'll do things that, within their relationships that we do not understand. We do not find any logic to of how they're doing relationships. And as we welcome a child maybe like that into our home with disorganized attachment, and what do we parents want to do more than anything? Build a relationship with them.
Yeah.
Love them.
Yeah.
Connect with them.
Yeah.
Spend time with them.
Yes.
All that is relationship based.
Yes.
Here's the key. They literally cannot do it. They don't have the skills yet, right? That's where the healing comes in.
I love that word, yet.
They don't have the skills to do it. And what I see from a lot of parents is that they take it very personally and very hard. It is hard. It's frustrating, right? We expect to be able to do this. We are motivated to welcome children in our home to be able to build this relationship with them. Yeah. But they literally can't, right? We see older kids that run away from us, literally run away from us. Yeah. They don't have those skills yet.
Yeah. Wow. I hope you're going to tell us what to do. Because obviously that's heartbreaking.
It is.
I know at Christmas we talked about the expectations, but that can really get us on the expectations. If we have these expectations that we are going to, I'm going to use a word that's, I'm trying to accentuate this, but to save this child, right? Obviously nobody saves anybody, right? But that's really our goal, right? To provide protection, to provide connection. And then when that child appears to be pushing us away, that's very painful.
Right. And even simple things like they're going to fit into my family. Yeah. My love is going to change them right away, right? Or they're going to be thankful for what they have now with me. They have their own room that they've never had before. They're going to be so thankful. And it's not that they're not, but they literally can't be. That is a major, it's really how we interpret it, right? Yeah. It's not that they won't do this, is that they can't do this.
Well, we have to know how we can, because there is hope. I do know, I don't remember, I've heard this more than one place, but we can change.
Yes.
Our own attachments, which in turn would help our children, right?
Right.
Is that where we're going?
That's where we're going.
Okay.
That's the hope here. Okay. And I think let's start there. It's kind of like where we started with Christmas stuff, but It starts with us, right? Attachment has to do with how the caregiver responds.
Okay.
So first, we need to dig deep as caregivers and think about, what is my attachment style? Is there something I have to heal from?
Yeah.
Right? What is my history
Yeah.
with my caregiver?
Yeah. You know, a great place to start might be with your spouse or your significant other, asking them what their perception is
They'll be
of
able
you.
to tell you.
Yeah, because you may find the answer that you don't necessarily. I know my husband would tell you.
Yeah.
He probably had he didn't have the words for what my attachments. He didn't have the 4 categories and be able to label it, but he could have told you years ago what it was. That might be a good place to start.
There is a quiz, online that I usually give people who attend my trainings that they could take. But I tell them, if you're married or if you have a spouse, have them fill it out for you.
Okay.
Because since you're self-reporting, sometimes it won't be as honest as what some other people see from you, right? Because it'll ask you questions about how your behaviors are with your spouse or with your loved ones, your friends, things like that. But think about, if you want to know, okay, where do I kind of lie on the spectrum of, this attachment? Think about, from the age of 5 to 12, when you were upset, when you were hurt, when you were sick, how did your caregiver respond to you usually? Okay, let's say you fell off your bike. What was your caregiver, your primary caregiver, whoever that was? If your primary caregiver was a nanny, we need to factor that in. But if it was mom or dad, whoever that was, whoever you lived with and took care of you, you fell off your bike. Did they meet both your emotional and your physical needs? So did they say, oh, that probably hurt. Oh, let me give it a kiss and let's put a Band-Aid and let's, that is a very secure attachment, right? Both physical and emotional needs. Or were they more avoidant, right? And they're better at meeting the physical, but not the emotional needs, right? Where they say, I told you not to go too fast down that ramp. I knew you were going to get hurt. Let me go get a Band-Aid for you, right? They don't really know what to do with that fear that you felt as a child. The anxious parent, you would never really know what you were going to get. And you were like always anxiously waiting. Are they going to get mad at me or are they going to be okay? Are they going to get mad at me or are they going to be okay? Are they going to meet my need? Right? And of course, the disorganized parent is like, they would maybe try to hide it from dad that you got hurt or like,
Yeah. What
they
was
were
the first one
frightened.
you said that said, I told you not to go down the hill that fast? What would that
would make an avoidant child.
Okay.
Yeah. So they were, again, not good at meeting that emotional need, but they're good at meeting the physical need.
Yeah.
Right?
Got
So once we kind of know where we lie, first we got to be honest about what we bring to the table. I always tell parents, like, it's easy to see what our kids bring to the table because it's hard for us, right?
Yeah.
But we need to see, a relationship is 2 people coming together.
We're good at hiding it.
Yeah.
They're just all out there. we know how to hide
We're
it.
adults and we can hide it better.
Yeah.
We have to be honest. We have to be brutally honest. What do we bring to the table? And start processing and healing from that. It could be, as simple as journaling about your memories, about some of those things, talking to a trusted friend or your spouse, or seeking professional help if you think that's what you need.
Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that
That's
at
actually
all.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Smart.
It could be so healing. I mean, especially if you find like that you have a disorganized attachment. That does not exclude you from this work. That does not exclude you from being a foster adoptive parent, right? And then once you're honest about that, you start recognizing, oh, I was avoidant here, right? Oh, I was, I wasn't very consistently warm to my child during this time. And you can get what's called earn secure.
That's it. I heard that term before.
Where you're
Earned
working towards being secure, where you're intentionally trying to interrupt your behaviors and learning new behaviors. But it starts with the parent. Before we can even talk about what can we do with our kids.
Yeah, we have to.
Starts with
We
us.
need to know ours. For me, a lot of times, what would happen is there would be an event or a situation where I knew when I walked away from it, I didn't like how I handled it. Like I knew that it wasn't all about her. It was a lot about me. And so sometimes my work happened after, like that was my warning light, my indicator light
Reflecting, yeah.
on the dash that was like, okay, something wasn't right. And sometimes that, would take journaling and things like that. So that's normal. You know what I mean? That is how parents get a little better, right?
Yeah. And, it'd be interesting to see, what the typical attachment style is of a foster parent. But I know like in the social work world, a lot of us come into this work. It's shown that a lot of social workers are avoidant.
Yeah.
Right? They're really good. All of us that are in this field, we're good at meeting those physical needs. You need 10 beds, we'll get you those 10 beds. You need food for that family, we'll get you food for that family.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the emotional part, that could be a little bit harder for us.
And Anna, I believe that the things that we actually invite healing into our lives by putting ourselves in these places. You know what I mean? Like basically, I think I have avoidant. That's how my mother would respond. Like, oh, stop it. That's just ridiculous. Now go over there and wash your knee and put a Band-Aid on it. You know what I mean? That was like, that was how she handled it. So the emotional part wasn't, but my children have invited me to do that healing work.
Yeah.
And so it's actually the pain of it. That's the gifts and the gaps. There's this gap that I have within myself. And the gift has been, I thought it was all about them, but I'm learning it's so much more about me. So the gift has been my own healing, mom as well. I'm becoming well. And my children are my teachers.
One of my favorite quotes is like, you do what you can until you know to do better, right? And then you can do better. And that's part of that healing process for us as parents and caregivers.
Right. When we know better, we do better.
Yeah.
And you can't really unknow something once you know it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's going to be there.
Yeah. So, okay, keep going. I love this. I asked you, I wanted to talk about this because I think it's so profound, has been so profound in my life.
Yeah.
Understanding my attachment style, understanding that there was a gap for me, never in care, but there was definitely a gap. And my mom was a wonderful mom doing the best that she could.
Yeah, and I think that's important, right?
Yeah.
Especially for our kids' biological parents or birth parents or family of origin, right? It's not about me against you. It's not about why did you do this to your child.
No.
That's what they had to work with, right? And I know if we would look to the history of those parents, how much of a cycle that's been, right? How much of a cycle that's been. So I think that would change how we view families of origin and birth families for a lot of our kids, to give them that compassion, that understanding.
Yeah. I mean, those are kids that there wasn't intervention.
Exactly. That's what I tell families. Like, those are kids that missed all this a generation ago.
Yeah.
What they should have missed, what maybe we as the system should have given them a generation ago, we didn't. Yeah. They missed it.
Right. And so, that's so important.
Yeah.
I often feel my daughter's birth mom is my daughter too. And she calls me Mama Tara. And I think she sees me that way. And I've told her several times, like, I just wish I could have had you for my daughter. I could have mothered you when you were 11 and you had no place to go.
Yeah, I was working with a foster family. It was maybe a couple of years ago now. And they had a foster daughter. She was 17 years old. It was here in the States. And their foster daughter's son was also living with them. So he was about 1 year old. She was 17 years old. And so I came in to help the foster daughter, the 17-year-old, attach with her baby, right? She was having a hard time. And the foster parents just did not understand why she didn't love her child. they loved the baby, of course, right? And they loved, caring for him. And they didn't understand why she wasn't an attentive mom, why she couldn't give that emotional support to them. And even though I was there for the foster daughter, that 17-year-old, I started almost like coaching and training the parents, because what they didn't understand, and what I wanted them to understand, is that if they were able to attach to the foster daughter and model that for her and build that relationship with her, she would then be able to do that with her child. But because she didn't have that, her attachment style was probably disorganized because of her history, and we won't get into that. But she did not know it or have the tools to do that with her baby, which they saw was so cute and so easy to love.
Sure.
Right? Yeah. So I think it's the same for us. Like, if we knew the power of, being in a relationship with someone, because even as adults, the people that are closest to us, they are influencing our attachment style. This is something that is constantly changing, right? So if we knew that's really the hope of healing, because, a child that comes into your care, no matter what the age, will start, modeling your attachment behaviors pretty early on. I think around 3 months.
Wow.
They start modeling your attachment behaviors. It doesn't really change their attachment until later, but they'll start picking up on these things. So it's so impactful.
It's almost like we don't even need to focus on the kid's attachment style.
We need to heal.
Could that be true?
I mean, if we're totally healed and if we focus on our healing, it's going to transfer.
I'll say that funny? Yeah.
It's easier for us to say, let me practice this with the child. But the truth is, if we focus on our healing, that's going to transfer. Yeah.
That's what I've found. And I can feel myself getting triggered by her. And everyone, if there were people sitting in the room, they'd be like, oh, yeah, it is. She's bad. Look at her. Mm-hmm. But I know, because once you know, you can't unknow, that it's me, that I'm pulling back because it's making me very uncomfortable, whatever's going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Very painful, very, very painful work to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have to really be on our own healing journey. Dr. Karen Purvis, who I'm sure you've talked about here from Texas Christian University, she would always say, like, you can only give a child what you have. So if you have healed and you have gone through that journey, you're able to offer that to them.
Yeah. That was our first wisdom from the well card. It's you can't give what you don't have.
Yeah.
And that's absolutely the case. Yeah. I think let's keep talking about adult. And you've done this training a lot, but I think that is the point we want to drive home, right? Is that it starts with us.
Yeah, it definitely starts. It starts with us. So as I mentioned before, attachment is a pattern for all our relationships, right? We can see it definitely with, if you're married, with your spouse, with your best friend. Mm-hmm. You will even see it, with your employer-employee relationship and how that works, right? And the 4 skills that attachment really builds and secure attachment is the ability to give and receive care, right? Mm-hmm. That is, 2 of the skills that really is based on your attachment. How able are you to give and receive care? Mm-hmm. Another one is to be able to negotiate your needs. Are you able to say what you need? Mm. Are you able to tell your boss what you need from them? Mm-hmm. Are you able, to negotiate that in relationship, or do you just avoid it and let it build up? Mm-hmm. And then the last one is to be autonomous, right? Where it doesn't matter who is in your life or who's not in your life. Like, you can be interdependent on your community, know where to look for help when you need it and support. And that's really a big clue of how resilient a person in a family is. Do they know where to go to look for support when they need it? Because we all do, right? Yeah. All families do.
And that's evident in the biological families of the kids we have in care, is because they don't, and they look in the wrong places.
Right. Right. With the wrong people.
With the wrong people. Yeah. That's really important information. One of the, could we talk a little bit about some of the behaviors that show up for these with our kids? You know, the behaviors that we were just talking about, how if you point to that, like, oh yeah, that's bad behavior. You know what I mean? Would that be something that we could talk about? Or do you have, I don't want to take the,
I think that's a good, for the kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think disorganized, we are going to see, you know, starting at kind of the insecure attachment, we're going to see mental health issues, right? We're going to see different disorders, personality disorder, anything like that, bipolar disorder, that could have its roots in attachment too, especially because the attachment was broken.
Sure.
So our kids that, you know, and I have so much compassion for our kids that have moved from home to home to home. And I wish I could tell you the stat of how many times a child in care usually moves. It's a lot.
Wow.
I'll just say that. It's a lot, right? Where they've been in different homes with different parents that all parent differently. Some that they attach to and then that's broken. And they attach to again and then that's broken, right? Starting from their family of origin. So that leads to, you know, early on in life, we see it as dysregulation, ADD, ADHD. They start getting more diagnosis, right? Bipolar disorder, mental illness from maybe when they're 12 years old. They start getting those diagnoses. So that's the disorganized attachment, things that we do not understand, that
quickly get labeled compounded, right? We're
Right.
compounding things here.
Right. So then we have the anxious, right? The anxious child. This is, again, the child that had that caregiver that never knew what to expect. So this person, when they grow up, they become entangled in their relationships. So you see a lot of that push and pull, right? Sometimes they're close to you, sometimes they're not. Another person who's in relationship with them might find it hard to soothe them, right? Because that's how their caregiver were. Their caregiver early on in life didn't know how to soothe them, didn't soothe them very well. So you might find that this child gets really close to you, or this teen, and then all of a sudden they're mad at you and they pull you away, but they want to keep your attention. And it's, you know, in a romantic relationship, this person might be overly jealous or suspicious of something, accusing their partner of doing things, you know. That is an entangled adult.
Yeah.
And then we have the avoidant person, and the avoidant child really is the same way as an adult, right? Struggles really hard with emotions. They're dismissive. They're what we call dismissive. So they struggle really hard with the emotional part in a relationship. They're good if, like, you're hungry, they can feed you, right? They're good at showing up, maybe being physically there. But when it comes to saying I love you, when it comes to hugging, when it comes to saying, you know what, you can do this, you did this, like encouraging you, that's really hard for them. And they don't have the tools or really know how to do that. So you obviously see that play out in all their relationships.
Right.
And then the ideal one, the secure attachment, stays secure as an adult. They're just, you know, they're able to give care, receive care, negotiate their needs, and be overall more successful as an adult in their relationships.
Anna, do these things show up? For me, it seemed like different ages could kind of trigger different issues with me. You know, like whereas a little tiny baby, it's super easy for me to give and receive, right? But when they hit about 3-4 years old, I start to like, I don't know. Let's see.
Your lid gets flipped.
My lid gets flipped easier, more easily. But like, I don't have any research to back this up, but like, it seems like there might be certain ages that maybe my mom went through a divorce, and remarried when I was around 2. You know, I don't know if things that have, I'm sure that my mom had some different things going on in her life that may have affected how she was able to attach with me at different times.
Yeah. So I'm glad you brought that up for 2 reasons. One is I think we talked about this a little bit, but your attachment can change, right? So even if you were, and I got the adult attachment interview, and that was a question I asked my interviewer, like, can your attachment change as an adult? And he said yes. If, let's say, you had secure attachment, great childhood, great parents, but you were maybe in a very harmful marriage, you know, with that person really close to you, that can change your attachment from secure to, you know, changing it to being either avoidant, dismissive, something like that. Because the opposite is true. If you have avoidant, dismissive, or disorganized, you can work towards secure. So yes, at different points of your life, depending on who was close to you and how they did relationship with you, that is possible, right? Another thing there that I want to point out, and I'm so passionate about this because there's this myth in our field, it's really a fear of teenagers, right? Stay away from the older foster kid because they're harder.
Yeah.
That's what people think. They have harder behavior issues. Go towards the baby, go with the toddlers. And I think that if we would understand more the why, we would really change that belief, because what really happens is this big girl or big boy who's taller than us, beautiful, you know, athletic maybe, has, you know, their brain is not the way we see them on the outside. And that's really hard for us. So whereas for us as caregivers, it's easy to attach to a baby and do maybe these attachment rituals with a baby and to nurture them with a younger child, the older they get, the more uncomfortable it is for us, the more we think they don't need that. And really, it's us, right? Like, again, it goes back to what we have to offer. It just feels so unnatural because it's not supposed to always happen at that age. It's supposed to happen at this age, you know, at this age. But they missed it at this age. And they need to go back. And I'm not telling you to get them on your lap and, you know, feed them a bottle. But how can we do that creatively?
How can we? Because I know
in age-appropriate ways.
We have a lot of people. I'm involved in a lot of Facebook groups for adoption and foster care, and I see that all the time. You know, what do I do? My teenage son, they've run away again, or they've, you know, what can you do? Because we know we're sitting here in this safe place, right? And we can talk about how they missed that eye contact and that what do you call it, neuroception, right? They missed that big word of basically meeting needs and being attuned and being connected.
Exactly.
So how do we do that? How do we do that? I mean, you obviously know how to do that because you did that for 5 years with teenage girls, nobody younger than 12. And
yeah, I think it's, again, easy to think about younger kids, right? So maybe let's go to the older kids.
Yeah, that's what I want to talk about, the older kids.
Here's the key words that I like to point out as far as attachment. It has to do with a caregiver that's warm and consistently nurturing. And for older kids, what happens, what I see with parents, definitely happened to me, is they mess up, right? And we as parents, this is where our attachment style comes up. If we're avoidant or entangled, whatever it is, dismissive or entangled, we start giving them the cold shoulder. We start getting angry. What we really do is we cut off that relationship because we expect more. We think they should know how to be better. But is there a way, you know, apart from connecting with them and spending time with them on things that they like, that's, you know, pretty obvious and easy, but how can we remain consistently nurturing no matter what?
Right.
And I had girls run away too. I had girls that used drugs. I had, you know, anything. But okay, you ran away. Am I going to dismiss you right now? Am I going to not deal with you right now? Or am I going to get my needs met with whoever I need to process this, because it's hurtful, right? I'm not saying to ignore that. So that I can continue to be warm, nurturing,
Yeah.
you know, your secure base
Yeah.
where you can always come back. Even if you
Right.
choose to leave,
Right.
you can always come back.
back.
Will I continue to cook you dinner that night,
Yeah.
even though you ran away from school that morning?
Yes. You better.
And that's the key right there,
Yeah.
because that's the first thing I
Yeah.
want to stop.
Yeah.
Fine, you don't want to be here, then don't
Yeah.
leave. Don't live here.
Yeah.
Then you don't have to eat dinner, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's
And
hard.
I'm sorry but that's like the honest, right? Like,
oh, please,
feelings,
because
the honest feelings that we go through,
Yeah.
like, you know, it's hard. It's hurtful.
very.
Yeah. And that's where really our attachment style comes out.
So what you're saying is when that happens, recognize it's happening. Recognize they hurt you, right?
Get your needs met,
Go
parent.
meet your needs.
Yes.
Yeah. Walk away. Nobody's, unless something's in somebody's, you know, holding a gas can in a match, you know, you can walk away. You can tell them, what would you tell them? You're the expert. What would you say? Like,
I mean,
teach them what you want them to say back to you. So what would that be?
so that at that moment, like when they're back with you,
Well, I'm just saying, like, they came. Okay, for example, you talked about this in another podcast about the daughter who didn't come home for Christmas in time.
yeah.
And you were frustrated because you had all these preparations. You didn't know what had gone on. She just said, I don't want to talk to you right now.
Yeah.
Right? And you had prepared, obviously, and done a whole lot for her.
So at that moment, I always say, okay, kids need to have their calming plan, but parents, you need to have your calming plan.
Yeah.
Who is that person you go to,
Yeah.
right?
But how do you step away? That's what I want to say.
Here's-
Without letting them feel like you're rejecting them. How do I step away from my daughters or my sons when I'm triggered without letting them feel like I'm done?
Let
You know what
me
I mean?
share
Okay.
a time when I maybe did it better.
Okay.
So one of my girls in the middle of the night, I caught her using drugs in her bedroom. This was like, you know, middle of the night. I just knew something was up. I went to go check, and that's what was happening.
Yeah.
And I freaked out. I was
Sure.
obviously scared. She was not in her right mind at
Yeah.
that time to respond well.
Right.
So I went downstairs to my best friend. She lived downstairs to me at the time. And I, as soon as I saw my best friend, I started crying. I said, this is going on. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to
Yeah.
do. I had all the training at that time. I was training this
Sure.
at that time. And my friend told me, she's also a trainer. She said, first, you need to calm down. What do you need right now? And I just cried for like
Sure.
3 to 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And then I knew right away after that what I had to go do.
Yeah.
And then I was able to go and deal with it without turning into a big,
Yeah.
you know, mess. She obviously needed to sober up because nothing was going to happen at that
Yeah.
moment. And then we could deal with it in the morning when
Yeah.
things were better. But at that time, if I would have reacted with all those emotions right there,
Right.
like thank God for my friend,
Yeah.
I would have not reacted correctly. So I needed to get my needs met quickly. I knew who to go to. Good thing I went to
Okay.
that person who already was a support system to me. And then I can go back and what I had to do was establish safety, right? Like, give me that. This is not going to happen
Yeah.
right now. You need to sober up. We need to get you to bed. That's what I had to do at that moment.
Yeah.
Make everybody in the home safe.
Yes.
Is what the first thing I had to do.
Yes.
But if I would have let my emotions get control of me, I probably would have done something that the next morning I would have
Regretted.
not liked. Yeah, regret it really.
So establish a safety plan. Not
Yes.
only you're teaching your
your
child.
calming plan,
Yeah,
right?
calming plan, that's
and
it.
usually what you're going to do is the next thing your child runs away is, okay, where are they? I need to make sure they're safe, right? That's the first thing usually.
Yeah.
When it's big moments like that. And then you know what? That next morning, I made breakfast. It was every other morning.
Yeah.
That, you know, that evening, whatever happened, however hurt you were, we are going to be consistent and warm caregivers.
Yeah, because that probably allowed you the opportunity to understand the next morning or over the next few days or weeks or whatever, what it was that she was trying to medicate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And really find her the help that she needs,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which
That's good.
Thank God she was able to overcome all that eventually. But yeah, I mean, I just imagine if I would have let my emotions and just seeing where she is now, and she's a mom now, and she's a great mom, and
Wow.
I still know her and visit her and everything. If I would have let my emotions, let's say kick her out of the house
Yeah.
that night,
Yeah.
I don't know where she would have gone and what
Yeah.
she would have done in
Yeah.
that state.
Yeah.
Right?
Got to calm. I think, I know we're talking about attachment. This is all about attachment.
Definitely.
It's
It's the way we do relationships.
I almost want to say the whole thing, everything is about attachment. I don't know. That might be too blanket. of a
Well,
statement,
the thing is that trauma impacts attachment, right?
Okay.
So the reason why our kids have these patterns that are unbelievable as far as relationships, they don't know how to do relationships, is because trauma has come to impact it, right? If they didn't experience chronic trauma in early childhood, they would probably have a better attachment.
Yeah. Okay. So let's just, is there more that you want to say about, we've talked about the 4 styles of attachment. We've talked about that we can actually earn a secure attachment, right? That's the terminology?
Yeah, get earned secure.
We can earn that. And then we've talked about how the importance of our understanding our own attachment style and how that plays out in our relationships. And some of the behaviors that can show up, right. in our children that trigger us. And then I think I like to have the takeaways. We could probably do 4 shows on attachment. I don't know, but
Yeah.
I don't want to leave anything out. But one of the things I'd like to close with when we get to that part is what we just said. That was one really powerful thing. Have a calming plan for yourself.
So that you can be that consistent, warm caregiver.
Yeah.
Definitely. One thing I don't think we mentioned this, but in order for you to understand, why is my child behaving this way? All I want is to love them. All I want is to offer my home to them. All I want, we have to understand what they missed in life. We have to understand, that image that I have in my head all the time is of this mom with her child. The first few days and weeks of life, really a baby can only see 8 inches, which is right here. And they miss that. They miss that because of whatever was going on in their history. And they miss that nurturing care. They miss that emotional part. And now we're seeing that as they get older. And we have to understand that. It's not a matter of, again, they won't do this. It's that they can't do this in relationships. So we have to teach them and go back and give them what they missed. That's a huge responsibility of ours in being trauma competent, right? And giving that trauma-informed care is to go back and fill in the gaps of their development. Go back and give them what they missed.
And we do that by giving it to ourselves.
Yes, we need to make sure we're able to do that.
I'm pretty sure, and I will put this in the show notes, but I'm pretty sure that the Dan Siegel story I told was in a book called Parenting from the Inside Out.
Okay. Yeah, I love that book.
Does the story ring a bell to you at all?
It's been a while since I read it.
Yeah.
So.
But I'm pretty sure, and if in the title of the book, Parenting from the Inside Out, is essentially what we're talking about, is parenting ourselves from the inside out.
Definitely.
And so I think that is really the focus. That's really the focus. We parent ourselves because more is caught than taught. We can't give what we don't have. All those things, that's it. It will flow.
Definitely.
Yeah. And so when we're feeling triggered, we have to ask ourselves, what is this about? And journal and talk to a friend and because I can't figure that out when I'm triggered. I can't.
Yeah.
I'm triggered. You know what I mean? I have had so many moments of being triggered in my 23 years of parenting. I'm just glad all my kids, they survived.
Yeah.
They survived. And you know what? You can always go back, Anna. This is the other thing. So much power, and you do it wrong. We all do it wrong. But there's power in going back. Just this morning, I had to go back with my son because he tripped my trigger. He hadn't done something I asked him to do, right? And instead of being curious as to why he didn't do what I asked him to do, I lashed out about why he didn't do what I asked him to do. And
repairing,
luckily,
right? Repairing that relationship.
Yes. Luckily, I had the opportunity to go back and say, this is what happened. I know you didn't mean to do something intentionally. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I think there's even more power in that because he sees how to mess up and big, little, whatever, and then go back, and it's how life is. And so when we do it wrong, we can, even what's Karen Purvis say? You only have to get this right about 80% of the time, or what's the note? She says something like that.
I don't know the percentage, but something she said a lot is it's better to have erred and repaired than to have never have erred at all. Like, it's better for our kids' brains for us to mess up and then ask for forgiveness and repair that than to be perfect parents, because then their brain never learns, what do I do when we mess up?
And they're going to, and we are going to.
Right.
Yeah. It's really good.
Yeah.
Do you have anything you want to close us out with?
I think that was a lot to think about.
That was a lot to think about, and it was that was really powerful. What do you think for a takeaway for today's message? As far as something, like just always, like, if I see this, it's going to remind me, like, I like even that, better to err and repair. I don't know. And we said a lot. I can go back and listen, but if there's something on the top of your brain that you want to say.
Yeah, one of my favorite authors, Dr. Kurt Thompson, he talks about neurobiology a lot. And when he talks about attachment, he says, we all come into the world looking for someone looking for us. And that's really the start of attachment, right? Like this image that I have, like our kids came into the world. Who is looking for me? Who is caring for me? And for some of our kids, nobody was looking back. And that is really how attachment starts. So I just love that quote. Like, we all come into the world looking for somebody looking for us.
That's good. That could be an anchor for us to remember. And you can't fake this kind of stuff.
You can't. It's gonna come. Your kids are gonna find those buttons somehow, and it's gonna come out.
Yeah, you can't fake. I know. I always. It's not a joke around my house. It's just the truth. I don't have a poker face. So how I am is what you see is what you get.
Right. Yeah.
And they know when I'm faking it. So I've had to learn how to not be faking it.
Yeah.
And if I'm faking it, it's almost better to say, faking it, gotta go get authentic here, and then I'll be back.
I mean, kids from trauma, they're even better at reading, right?
Totally.
That part of their brain is very developed of reading people, reading the room. Am I safe? Am I not safe?
Yeah.
There's no way you can fake with them at all.
No, you can't. You can't fake it. So you got to parent from the inside out.
Definitely.
So that's a good book we'll put in there. And one more thing I wanted to ask you to, if you know it, if not, we'll get it. But the attachment test, or the attachment, what do you call that?
The survey?
I
have that. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll put that in the show notes too today, and make sure if you want to take that test and asking your friends and your close, intimate relationships what they think is a great idea. Have them take the test, right?
Yes,
take the test for you.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's great. So thank you, Anna, for joining us, and thank you guys for tuning in. I think that again, we just need to remember kind of the undercurrent of what we say every week, but it starts with us. Like, it starts with understanding ourselves, and sometimes there's some reparenting to do of ourselves so that we can spill out what's there. And I found that looking at my past, looking at some things, my attachment style, looking at some gaps that I had, has actually created this deep well that I can draw upon. And And I love thinking of that analogy, that like we just have to create a new relationship with the things that have gone not so well in our lives, because they can give us a lot of wisdom about ourselves and about others and compassion. And so, anyway, thanks for joining us. Please share this podcast with other foster and adoptive families. We all need support. And the more we can talk about this kind of stuff together in community, the healthier we all get. And the healthier parents make healthier kids. And that is the goal. So please share this on your social media pages, and in emails, and just in conversation. So we'll see you again next week.
Mama's well.
Yes, she is.